All right, all praise, glory, and honor most certainly due to the Most High Elohim of the patriarchs Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And I want to say peace to each and every one of you in the name of his son, Yehoshua HaMashiach, who we know as Jesus the Christ. It's always a blessing each and every single time that I can come before you to bring a message contained in his word, and never do I count it as a light thing to do so. All right, brothers and sisters, in today's message, I want to deal with something that really, to me, is the epitome of everything that's wrong with modern day Christendom, Christianity, and particularly with our people. You know, we'll go with anything that has a good sound, that has some flair. We certainly love when things are packaged in a particular way, and it is from people that even don't look like us, but maybe they sound like us. We are suckers for that, and you really you're a sucker when it comes to the truth, because the reality is when you're dealing with the Lord, you must deal with the truth. I dealt with that in the last lesson. So I want to share with you just something that was just all over the timeline. And just when I say I'm not going to do this, I open up the computer and there it is again, consistently. So I want to show you this video again. This is an epitome of all that's wrong with Christianity in general and the black so-called, so-called church, because obviously Israel is the church, but in this what we've adopted in this diaspora. So I'm going to share my screen with you. Give me a moment here. Okay, fair use, YouTube, fair use. Now, there's a number of things wrong already. It's you have a woman in the pulpit, and I did a message some time ago about a preacher who he tried, he was very much trying to misconstrue the text to argue that women could be pastors. And although we live in a society that is feminist, we live in a society that is matriarchal, we live in a gynocracy, we live in a society in which men are no longer the leaders, the Bible has not changed. The word of God has not changed. And the order is simple: Father, Son, man, woman, and child. There's no way that a man that is operating in his masculinity should be sitting up under a woman preaching unto him. That from a pulpit, that is totally out of order. But I'm gonna let you listen to this message. Fair use, YouTube. Fair use. I know you don't like me necessarily, but fair use. Because this is commentary. This is for educational purposes. Fair usage. All right. I'm gonna play a little bit of this. Maybe I'll slow it down just a tad bit. Maybe not. Hold on 1 second. Okay, here we go.
Y'all know what time we get ready to go home? It's time to eat. What do you do when you get ready to fry? Get that skillet. What do you call it? Go fry some chicken, you're gonna need some. You're gonna fry some fish, you're gonna need some. You're gonna fry some vegetables, you're gonna need some. You're gonna fry some bacon, you need some. No.
See, right out the bat, we love how this sound as a people. Again, it's packaged in a particular way, but the package is wrong and the message is wrong. Let's start over here.
Some chicken, you're gonna need some. You're gonna fry some fish, you're gonna need some.
Talking to Negroes, yes, frying some chicken. Okay, we can relate to that. Let's keep going.
Chicken, you're gonna need some. You're gonna fry some fish, you're gonna need some. You're gonna fry some vegetables, you're gonna need some. You're gonna fry some bacon, you need some.
You're gonna fry some bacon. We're gonna find out what the Bible says about you frying some bacon, and I want to deal with what you need to remember. That's the title of today's message: what you need to remember when you trying to fry that bacon. But let's continue.
No. No, I know exactly where I'm going. You don't need to fry bacon because
So you look over into your neighbor and tell him, be like bacon baby. See, this is everything that's wrong with us as a people. We go for anything politically, spiritually. We are destroyed for lack of knowledge. You shouldn't be bacon is swine. If there's anything you don't want to be like, it's a pig. If there's anything you don't want to be like, it's swine, because that is unclean. And that's how we are in our worship of the Lord. You can tell that from the people being in there on the wrong day, up under the wrong teaching, up under the wrong teacher, listening to the wrong message. Be like bacon baby. So that's the foolishness that I saw about 20 times today. So obviously, let's deal with that that is glaring. Okay, and that is the fact that, quite frankly, you have a woman in the pulpit with a congregation. Well, again, I always ask the question: how do you get around what the Bible says about that? You see spiritually that the man is the head. Okay, the woman is not the head of man. All right, that's not the case. So when you have a woman in the pulpit, you are operating out of order. Okay, it's just that simple. Let's go to 1 Timothy. You're operating out of order when you have a woman in the pulpit heading over the congregation. And Paul talks about this. This is 1 Timothy 2. This is the first thing that's glaring. 1 Timothy 2 and verse 11 says, let the woman learn in silence with all subjection. But I suffer not a woman to teach. And he says, I suffer, but I don't allow. But I suffer not a woman to teach, nor to usurp authority over the man, but to be in silence. How do you get around that? You can come up with Aquila and Priscilla and say, well, they had a church in that house and they did this and they had that. You meeting in your house, understand the order of things. The man is the head. You don't have it to where that's why you don't see, it doesn't, I want to be clear. It doesn't mean that a woman, I'm not talking about this woman. I'm talking about a true believing woman does not mean that she doesn't have a spirit. It doesn't mean that she doesn't know the Lord. You have prophetesses throughout the Bible. But I've heard ministers, like the one I was talking about earlier, that falsely have argued that because a woman is a prophetess, you got examples of like Deborah, that meant that she was the spiritual head over me or over a congregation. That is not the case. That is not the case. That's why you don't have any female. When you look at the Levites, for example, that was the priestly tribe. Why don't you have any priestesses? That's why, because again, it was never that the woman was supposed to be over the man in that way. That's not the case. So now he said, but I suffer. So now when you look in the age, when the gospel is going forth, notice what he says. He says, but I suffer not a woman to teach nor usurp authority over the man, but to be in silence. And then he's going to take you all the way back to the beginning where he made man and woman. He said, for Adam was first formed, then Eve. And Adam was not deceived, but the woman being deceived was in the transgression. Okay, so now he took you back to Adam and Eve. The order was set there. So when you put a woman over the congregation, you have put everything out of. So how you simply cannot. Again, he said, but I suffer not a woman to teach, nor to usurp authority over the man, but to be in silence. And he told you that actually more than once. Let's go to 1 Corinthians, the 14th chapter. 1 Corinthians, the 14th chapter, and verse 34. It says, let your women keep silence in the churches, for it is not permitted unto them to speak, but they are commanded to be under obedience, as also saith the law. He tells you in one place, if they had questions, let them ask their husbands at home. when you do things out of the Lord is very clear on his order. And once you do everything out of order or things out of order, now you have chaos. Now you have chaos. Okay, we're gonna stick with let's go in another place in First Timothy. Let's go to First Timothy, the 3rd chapter, because here he gives you the qualifications of a bishop or pastor or elder. These terms can be used as synonymously, but this speaks to one who is a head over a congregation. He's leading the people, right? He's leading them to Christ, but he's leading the people. So now he gave you some qualifications. You know, if you ever notice, he doesn't say anywhere where a woman should be, her qualifications should be. This is 1 Timothy, the 3rd chapter, and verse 1. It says, this is a true saying. If a man desire the office of a bishop, he desireth the good work. Now, we just read that the woman's to keep silence. Now, he said that in the previous chapter. But I suffer not a woman to teach, nor to usurp authority over the man, but to be in silence. And in the next chapter of the same book or this epistle, he says, this is a true saying. If a man desire the office of a bishop, which is an elder or a pastor, he said he desired the good work. A bishop then must be blameless, the husband of one wife, vigilant, sober, of good behavior, given to hospitality, apt to teach. Okay, so he gave you some basic qualifications. Now understand, you should understand that when this is all talking about what men can do. Okay. So now when he says bishop then must be blameless, the husband of one wife, we understand that word mia can mean first, because it can't mean that he only had to have one wife to be or could only have one wife to be a bishop, because a couple reasons why. Number one, you wouldn't introduce that there. Number two, he's not in a position to introduce a thing that Torah doesn't. And number three, he would disqualify himself because he didn't have a wife. What is he telling you? If the man has a wife, then and he's married to her, it is his first wife or his wife of his youth, if you will. It may tell you something about the man's character. Because again, it can't be that he couldn't have more than one wife, or it couldn't be that he could be single. Why? Because Christ, the bishop of our souls, didn't have a wife. Paul, again, did not have a wife, and he's over all these congregations. So this is a true saying. If a man desire the office of a bishop, he desireth the good work. A bishop then must be blameless, the husband of one wife, vigilant, sober, of good behavior, given to hospitality, apt to teach. Not given to wine, no striker, so that means violent, right? Not greedy of filthy lucre, but patient, not a brawler, not covetous, one that ruleth well his own house, having his children in subjection with all gravity. For if a man know not how to rule his own house, how shall he take care of the church of God? Not a novice, lest being lifted up with pride, he fall into the condemnation of the devil. Moreover, he must have a good report of them which are without, lest he fall into the reproach and the snare of the devil. You know what this tells you, brothers and sisters? It tells you that all women, you never see a woman priest, you never see a woman pastor, you never see a woman bishop, so you never see a woman teacher. So now what is this telling you? It's telling you that women are disqualified. And most men are disqualified. Why? Because you have to meet all these criteria. And all children are disqualified. You understand? So how you have to, as one place says, wait on your ministry. You may be in a position to as a boy to teach one day, but it's not when you're 6. Like you see in a church, you see this boy, he can't even wipe his butt good, and he preaching. And then the woman will come up and say, listen to the preacher. Listen, he sure can preach. And then she get to preach. Both of y'all need to sit down. And now today how it is, you got the female preacher, she dressed any kind of way. She dressed like she coming out the club. And she preaching. So this is totally out of pocket. Just from the simple fact, that lets you know, I remember I was a kid, I always said this as a kid, I remember, I didn't know anything. I would say I didn't know anything about the word when I was growing up. I wasn't taught anything. But we went to church, and you heard a bunch of foolishness. every Sunday. But I remember one Sunday I came in there, there was a number of preachers that were visiting, and one I had a collar and it was a woman. I knew that wasn't right. I said, that's not correct. I was a child. I said, that's not right. And the Bible shows you that's not right. So that alone should let you know you shouldn't be listening to anything this woman is saying. And then what she talking about, she say, be like bacon, baby. What does the Bible tell you about swine? You shouldn't be cooking bacon at all. Let's go to, you want to be like Christ, you know, you want to be sanctified, you want to be righteous. He said, be ye perfect, right? He can say, you read that in Matthew the 5th chapter. You want, there's something you want to be like, but he says, he told you, be ye therefore perfect, even as your Father which is in heaven is perfect. But you don't want to be like bacon, baby. That's not what you want to be. And I understand what she's saying, and she's saying, you want to have oil and perseverance and so forth. But the reality is, you can say things, but then using that analogy shows you are either ignorant or denying purposefully what the word is saying. In either way, you're out of pocket. And the fact that you're a woman, why is it that the Bible does not give you a precedent for something, but you feel that you could do it anyway? Why do you feel as a woman that you can preach? Because you think you know something? You knowing is not enough. You knowing something is not enough. And clearly here, you don't know. And you're going to have to give an account for the things that you're doing. And any foolish man that is sitting up under this teaching, and you got your wife in here, something's wrong with you. You weak. How you going to allow this woman to teach you the word as a pastor? This is Leviticus the 11th chapter. It says, and the Lord spake unto Moses and to Aaron, saying, speak unto the children of Israel, saying, these are the beasts which ye shall eat among all the beasts that are on the earth. Whatsoever part of the hoof and is cloven footed, and cheweth the cud among the beasts, that shall ye eat. So there's a criteria of food you can eat. You find that criteria in the book of Leviticus. He tells you what you can eat out of the waters. He tells you what you can eat concerning what you shouldn't eat concerning fowls or creeping things or beasts of the field. Verse 7 says, and the swine, though he divide the hoof and be cloven footed, yet he cheweth not the cud, he is unclean to you. You shouldn't be eating swine. Talking about be like bacon, baby. You don't need to be like bacon. You don't need to eat bacon. You shouldn't be frying bacon. Something so simple that just lets you know something is wrong. Well, somebody might say, well, that's the Old Testament. Well, what did Christ say about the law? That's that old law. We can eat anything we want to now. That's the thing that Christians tell you. But did Christ say he came to do away with the law? No, he didn't. This is Matthew the 5th chapter. In verse 17, he says, think not that I am come to destroy the law or the prophets. I am not come to destroy, but to fulfill. See, he didn't come to do away with the law. He the one that came and told you, Israel, thou shalt not kill. But I say you shouldn't even be angry with your brother without a cause. So is that tightening the reins or letting them loose? See, Christianity let the reins go. It lets the reins loose and you can do whatever you want to. Christianity, you can eat the horse. You can eat anything. They say, rise, Peter, kill and eat. Oh, that means you can eat anything. No, he told you, call no man common or unclean. It was showing you that this word need to go to the Gentiles. So now you got this woman up here, and I can't say for sure look like a Gentile. You never know. Look like a Gentile, sound like a Negro, one of us. And she's speaking to you in a way in which you can vibe with, but it's all wrong. And we look for a show. We look to be entertained. Like I said, this is all this. There's so many things. There's so many layers of this. That's what's wrong with the church, the so-called church today. It's about being entertained, but what the word says, you're not trying to hear it. So now it says again, think not that I've come to destroy the law or the prophets. I came not to destroy, but to fulfill. Verse 18, for verily I say unto you, one till heaven and earth pass, one jot or one tittle shall in no wise pass in the law till all be fulfilled. So what does that mean? You still got heaven and earth. That means the law is still good. That means don't eat don't eat the swine. It's unclean unto you. That is still good. You shouldn't be eating swine. And he's going to tell you what he's going to do to those who consume swine. While you trying to tell them, the people, to be like bacon, baby, you need to be like Christ, who was without sin. This is Isaiah 65. Let's see what the prophet said here. He says, I am sought, verse 1, I am sought of them that ask not for me. I am found of them that sought me not. I said, behold me unto a nation that was not called by my name. I have spread out my hands all the day unto a rebellious people, which walketh in a way that was not good, after their own thoughts. A people that provoketh me to anger continually to my face. So now you are making the Lord angry with your worship. It said that sacrificeth in gardens and burneth incense upon altars of brick. So they were worshiping falsely then. These are his people. And he was angry with them. Notice what it says here, which remain among the graves and lodge in the monuments. Okay, again, so now you dealing with the dead, you dealing with false worship. It says, which eat swine's flesh, and broth of abominable things is in their vessels. So why is that an issue? Because you eating swine is an indication that you don't know the Lord. Why? Because swine is unclean unto you. It's an abomination. That lets you, again, you eating swine, you don't know the Lord. You shouldn't have any bacon on your skillet. There's a bunch of other animals you shouldn't be eating too. Like she said, you fry that fish. Yeah, they got their catfish. They got their swine. Right? They got a little hen dog. They good to go. You're not supposed to. The hen dog maybe not so much, but the swine is a sin to eat. Catfish is a sin to eat. He says, which say to, well, I'm going to pick it up at verse 4. It says, which remain among the graves and lodge in the monuments, which eat swine's flesh, and the broth and abominable things is in their vessels, which say, stand by thyself, come not near to me, for I am holier than thou. And you can't tell them anything. So they worship him falsely, swine in their vessels, but they in their mind, they're holy. There's nothing holy about that, just like there's nothing sanctified about what this show is on here. Because again, you are sanctified. There was this yesterday. You are sanctified by the law. You are sanctified by his commandments. You are sanctified by his word. Because why? Because that is what the truth is. That's what the truth is. So it says, would say, stand by thyself, come not near to me, for I'm holier than thou. Notice what he said. He said, these are a smoke in my nose, a fire that burneth all the day. See, you talking about frying something. He said, man, you are smoking my nose. You are irritating. You are irritating to me. Matter of fact, you need to remember this in Isaiah 66, when you go to fry that bacon, and when you're trying to be like bacon baby, this is what you need to understand. This is Isaiah 66 chapter. Isaiah 66 and verse 15 says, for behold, the Lord will come with fire and with his chariots like a whirlwind. So somebody gonna get fried, all right. It said, for behold, the Lord will come with fire and with his chariots like a whirlwind, to render his anger with fury and his rebuke with flames of fire. Right? You remember that when you got that bacon on the stove. I remember I told a false preacher I was at an award ceremony for I was in school and was getting this award. He was there. He was a false prophet. He's sitting next to me, and they brought a salad out. They said it had bacon. They had bacon dressing on the salad. I said, I don't want that. They said, oh, why? What's wrong with that? I said, I don't eat pork. Oh, you a Muslim? I said, no, I'm not a Muslim. I just believe in the Bible. He said, oh, you can eat that out. You know, I'm a pastor. I said, so you believe in the Old Testament too? He said, I believe all of it. I read him this. As he had bacon in his mouth, that man started choking. Why? Because he understood that this is future. This is talking about when he comes back in flaming fire, taking vengeance on them that know not God and obey not his gospel. That hasn't happened yet. Notice what it says. He said, for behold, the Lord will come with fire and with his chariots like a whirlwind, to render his anger with fury and his rebuke with flames of fire. For by fire and by his sword will the Lord plead with all flesh, and the slain of the Lord shall be many. And pay attention to who's among the slain. They that sanctify themselves. You're not sanctified by the word, you sanctify yourself. And purify themselves in the gardens behind one tree in the midst. Again, you worshiping falsely. Doing what? Eating swine's flesh. Again, that shows you don't know the Lord. That's why I tell you, he says, I know them and keeping not the commandments is a lie and the truth is not in them. You're not keeping his commandments, you don't know the Lord. How you know him? Gut full of swine. How you know him? It says again, verse 17, they that sanctify themselves and purify themselves in the gardens behind one tree in the midst, eating swine's flesh, and the abomination and the mouse shall be consumed together, saith the Lord. You thought that fish grease was hot. You thought that fish grease was hot. He said, you're going to be consumed together, saith the Lord, when you got swine in your vessels. This message is all wrong. But what do? We cheer. We want to hear things like this. See, we want this kind of thing. That's what we want to hear. But it's not about what you want to hear. It's about what thus saith the Lord. That's what's important. So with that, brothers and sisters, I want to imagine we at the Household of Faith meet every Sabbath at 5925 West 25th Avenue in Gary, Indiana at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time. We live stream right here on the Israel Teach YouTube channel. Again, that's every Sabbath at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time. And with that, brothers and sisters, I want to say to you that it is always